Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Gitzeg, Marketing Director at Dell Technologies and a passionate leader of empathetic, high-performance teams. So welcome to my LinkedIn video series, Leading Questions, where I dive into real conversations with authentic leaders I admire and respect. So today, I'm super excited to invite Courtney Hughes to the chat. Welcome, Courtney.
Hey, Susie. Thank you.
Courtney is the director of global brand campaigns at Dell and a leader that I have admired from afar. Although in her team's messages, I let her know I admire her as well for a long time. And I'm really excited to have you here, Courtney.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm on the other side today, so
I
this is
know.
about to be fun.
For viewers, Courtney is often the face of many a broadcast, and now we're switching chairs for a little bit. So
Yep.
let me know how I do. I appreciate it.
I sure will.
Okay, we're going to jump in. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. Let me know the first time you sort of saw yourself as a leader.
The first time I saw myself as a leader, I would say it was when I was a kid. I was really involved in sports. I'm very athletic, so I can play about anything, but it was mainly cheerleading and softball. So being like the captain of the cheerleading team, the captain of the softball team, those were the first instances I started to see myself as a leader. It wasn't something I signed up for and like raised my hand to be the captain or anything. It was something that my coaches saw in me with the work that I put in, the work ethic that I put in, but then also how I'm able to bring those around me along and push them as well. That just came natural, that I never, signed up and was like, yeah, I want to be the captain. I've always been a fly under the radar kind of person, which might be surprising for most people. To know that naturally I'm that way. But that was, I would say, my first instance of like seeing myself as a leader and understanding what it means.
When you became a leader, when you were nominated, when you were put in that position, how did you feel after, if you can remember? And how did you adapt to that role?
Um, I felt a little, I think, intimidated, actually, is probably the best word to use. It's like exciting and intimidated because there's a huge responsibility that comes with being a leader.
Yeah.
And, I watched my mother lead all the time. She was a pastor, the lead pastor of our church. And it was in those conversations with her and learning what leadership is, and it's getting in with your team, it's doing the work. Like, she was not above cleaning toilets or cleaning the floor. Like, she pastored the church. You would think, oh, you just have somebody else to do it, that's not for you to do. And it was one of those big lessons of like, and she would always tell us, like, leadership is just an higher act of service, never in service to yourself, but in service to those you were in charge of leading. And she was my first example of seeing that in action and what it actually means to lead. Like, I'm not leading in front, I'm walking beside, and nothing is above me as a leader. And so I would say intimidated at first, because you like understand, like, oh man, like I'm having to lead people, I'm having to bring people along, and you don't want to, like, there's that fine line of bringing people with you and bossing people, that I don't think is talked about enough. It's really easy to tell people what to do, but it's even harder for people to want to follow you because they want to follow you, not because you're telling them what they need to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think this is honestly leaders of our generation, or anyone coming into leadership roles right now. I feel like that's something that we're grappling with a lot. And honestly, I have not met a leader that's started in leadership in the past 5 years that thinks that that's how you lead. Do this and do that, and I'm the boss. Like, it sort of it takes me aback to even think of someone treating me that way or treating anyone else that way. But yet that's the way it often was, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I know you brought up servant leadership. I know about that, and I think it's amazing. You want to talk a little bit more about it and what it means to you?
What it means for me is just being of service to my team. And not just the team and I consider being a leader a blessing and a responsibility, that I've been blessed to be able to lead, but then also those that you lead by influence, not necessarily direct reports. words. You know what I mean? So the example that you set, the expectations that you have are not just of them, but they are of yourself as well. Being very self-aware in the conversations that you have with people, how you feel, but then also paying attention to maybe how they feel. Certain cues that can kind of let you know, like something might be a little off. Let me
Mhm.
just ask, you know. And I've always been one, I lead with the person. So, like, how are you? Not how's work, you
Right.
know? Like,
Right.
I want to know how you're doing. I want to know what's going on with you because life impacts work and work impacts
Mhm.
life. And when you understand those things about your team and you understand what's going on with them, you're able to help. And whether that's taking a project off of them because they have some family issues going on with the
Mhm.
spouse or with the kid, you know, being able to help because I've realized a lot of people are really scared to say I need help or
Absolutely.
scared to say this is too much for me because I have this going on. They don't want to be viewed a certain way or have a certain perception or anything like that. When in reality, it's like you show up better here for us when you're showing up better in the other parts of your life too. And there are things going on in your personal life that are taking away from how you show up here. How can I help you? Um,
Mhm.
and meaning that from a place of like wanting to help you grow, and not just in your career, but also personally too, to not be afraid to ask for help on things.
I think this is such a good message, audience and viewers. I feel exactly the same way. And I'll say that as a person who honestly prior to remote work, I didn't share that much about my personal life. And it was rare for me to say, like, guys, I'm overwhelmed. I felt personally like it could be a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
But I saw on the other side how much I wanted my team to trust me and share with me, and how if they needed help, I wanted to be able to like champion and be in the trenches with them and figure it out. And
Yeah.
that it was okay for me to be more authentic and vulnerable with my
Mhm.
team. And
Yeah.
I don't regret that one day.
No, I mean, and it helps build the connection,
Yeah.
like when you're connecting with people. Um, it's hard to connect on a superficial
Yeah.
level. It's really hard.
It's true.
The people I've connected with that we work with and on my team as well, it has never had anything to do with the job. It never has. It has had to do with juggling motherhood and career,
Yeah.
going the medical challenges that my daughter went through, going through that and working at the same time. Dealing with an early onset of Alzheimer's with my mom, and
Mhm.
somebody else's parent is dealing with that as well. It has been on those emotional human levels that we actually
100%.
connect with people, but you have to let people see that side of you and see those parts of you, and with the understanding that it doesn't make me weak. As a matter of fact, it actually makes me stronger because I can talk about these things, because I can share these things with other people and hopefully help and inspire them to want to do the same as well.
I'm going to give snaps to that and move on to our next question. Okay, so I know that you were an individual contributor for a long time and then you shifted into leadership. I'm really interested in how the transition was for you. What made you decide to take that step and how do you feel?
I guess I'll start with the second part of that
Yeah.
question. What made me want to become a leader? I wanted to help.
Mhm.
I really wanted to help. Most people, my background is it traditional, TV and radio and writing for a magazine. And somebody took a chance on me. And so when you look at leadership tables and what they look like, I wanted to help, to be a representation of people that look like me,
Mhm.
to provide opportunities to people, making them equal for everyone.
Mhm.
I've been in conversations like, oh, they worked for a smaller company. It's like, and the job is the job. It's about, do you have the skills to do the job? Not, did you work at a big company before? Just that understanding. Some people think that, oh, because you worked at a big company, you'll be successful at this company. And that doesn't necessarily translate. And that keeps our thinking very close minded in those instances. And so I wanted to be in a place to be able to help, to provide different perspectives on things. I was having a conversation. We were talking about like leaders and, opportunities and things like that. And being the only Black woman in that conversation, everybody else's experience was the same but mine. But that also gave me an opportunity to educate everyone to the understanding of not everybody's experience has been the same as yours. Like mine hasn't. Not every leader I've had has been that way. There have been some that haven't. And, to get some leaders to open their mind to like, my experience is not the same as yours and vice versa. And I can learn a lot from you if I don't impose my own experience on you as if it's yours as well.
I think it's asking those questions, right? I think there's been a few times over the past couple of years where I had that thought. I'd assumed something, or I made some sort of assumption about how someone represented and how they stood out in the world, and stopping and asking. And sometimes I'm totally wrong and I'm totally off base and I need to learn. And I love that you did that and that you shared in that instance.
Yeah. And then to your point about challenges, I think one of my biggest challenges was going from player to coach. Was my big one. You and I both know, as high performing individual contributors, like, you overperform all the time. You're going above and beyond, not because that is expected of you, but because that is what you expect of yourself.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So always raising your hand, taking on new projects, like taking a project on a thing you know nothing about, but you want to learn about, always raising my hand. And so like moving into leadership, there was that, oh man, like it'd be easier for me to just do it myself, but that don't feel like the right thing to do. And so learning to not raise my hand, learning to delegate. And I don't mean delegate for the sense of just assigning tasks, but the delegation is intentional and goal oriented based on the conversations that you have with your team and helping them with their first attempt in learning. That's what I call fail. Their first attempt in learning.
Ooh.
Helping them with that. Helping them like work through that. Because you don't get it right the first time, but you learn so much when you don't get it right. And being a safe space for the team to be able to have their first attempts in learning. And we're making these, okay, well, what did we learn? What can we implement next time so that these things do not happen? Because that's how you grow. And it's not me doing the job for them, me telling them how to do it, because that's the way that I would do it. But we all have different perspectives of, well, actually, I think this way might be a better way. And that could be something I never thought of. So allowing them to explore those things and parts of themselves and help them in that way. I think that was like my big adjustment, because like automatically you're going to be like, yeah, me. And it's like, no, not you.
This was the hardest part for me too. And it's funny, it was not an aha moment. It came over probably my first year of leadership where I realized like, wait, I'm not supposed to do it all. I don't have to do it all. My team is fully capable and amazing. And this is an opportunity for them. And all of a sudden I thought, wow, like why did it take me 6 months, 8 months? It was in the middle of COVID. So I'll give it that. But once I started doing that and seeing these programs that maybe I had started them or dabbled in them, but then I saw them take them, make them their own and thrive. It was, I don't know, it brought me so much joy to see and support and encourage. And I love the FAIL acronym and like making it comfortable to try and fail and learn and try again. And we have to, none of us are robots. We're all humans and we have to experiment together.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So next question is about like working with a mostly remote team. How has it been for you building authentic relationships remotely? Are there any struggles or any successes that you want to share, or any tips?
I would think with working remotely, I've actually picked up the phone to call more ad hoc than I would being in the office. I mean, I've been remote since 2015, so it's been a while. But like, I mean, we'd be in for strategy meetings and different things like that. But those things are remote now. They're virtual, because not everybody can come in. And so I find myself picking up the phone to call more and not, hey, I want to talk to you about such and such. but just to check in. Hey, I want to see how you're doing.
Mhm.
How are you doing personally? How are you really?
Mhm.
Like actually taking the time to check on them in that way. Um, Showing up for them in ways where even though physically I can't, but that they are thought of, when there are deaths in the family and people are
Absolutely.
sick, sending flowers on behalf of the team,
Mhm.
just to connect with them in different ways and show them that like we are here for them, even though I'm
Mhm.
not there for you in person.
I know.
And then also learning and being honest, just bluntly asking, what does connection mean to you? What does being
Yeah.
connected mean to you? Because what
Mhm.
I view as connection might not be what like we all might view connection in very, very different ways. And so understanding the language they speak so that I can speak that to them so that it feels like connection for them and not just me too, because we all view it differently,
So
you know?
differently.
Yeah.
One of my newest obsessions, although I haven't fully read the book to be honest, but I'm obsessed with the five love languages and they have one for work. And I've been thinking a lot about how everyone wants to be appreciated and validated, and show that they're important, and how it really is different from person to person.
Yep.
Just like their language of connection, just like the language of apology, and knowing that like one size fits all really
Yep.
doesn't work, and especially doesn't work in a remote world.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
Okay, final question, Courtney. Advice for future leaders. It could be someone young considering a career. It could be someone who's an individual contributor who might be thinking about a next step. What would you say for them?
I would say number one is one thing one of my mentors said to me that really stood out to me. And I think about it all the time is what got you here, meaning what made you successful in your last role to get you to this point might not make you successful here. And so thinking about that, like, wow, like the things that made me successful in my last role might not make me successful here. And by default, when things get tough, we go to the things that we know have been successful in the past.
Mhm.
But sometimes that doesn't translate. And so being able to strip all of those things away, ego and pride, right along with it, and really taking a look and seeing, like, what is this position requiring of me now? Not of my old self, not bringing all that with me, but what does this position require of me now? And then being honest with yourself of the areas that you need to work on in regards to those things that are required of you in your new position to be successful. But then that goes to the next one, like what makes you successful here is not going to make you successful there. So it's something that I really think about all the time, and checking in with myself to make sure that I'm not defaulting to those things, that I am growing and
Mhm.
learning and stretching myself in different ways, because you can't always rely on those past things. Well, I was successful in this role, I will absolutely be it in this one. It's like that is not a guarantee. Um, I would say that one is a very big one for me. The other one is take all of the blame and none of the credit. I am here to
Ooh.
protect my team. If something goes wrong, it hits me. But if it goes
Mhm.
right, it is on them. Like, take me
Mhm.
out of it. Like, it is the team. And so I think that's one thing too. It's really easy in leadership to be like me, and I, and when in reality, like you are
Yeah.
nothing without your team, you are nothing
Mm-mm.
without your org. Like you are in charge of leading them in the direction to accomplish the mission, to accomplish the vision, to help them grow as individuals, not to take the credit for all of the great things that happen under your leadership. You play a role, but you should not be in the spotlight. Like you give your team all of that, but if the
Mhm.
blame comes down, you can just give it to me, I think is another one. And I think the third one, I always laugh about this one. Because I've had managers like this before. But I learned in, having conversations with mentors and things like that I have, that micromanaging is a
Mhm.
reflection of your insecurity and not of their effort.
Ooh.
And so understanding there's a difference between helping and hand-holding and micromanaging. And you know which ones of your team need more help and
Mhm.
guidance than others, but you don't micromanage because that means you're insecure. They can't do it. Like you don't believe they can do it, so you have to micromanage it. And it's like it's really a sign of your insecurity and not of them putting forth an effort and not in the work that they're doing, but the fact that you're scared that something's going to go wrong and things like that. And it's like it's okay. Like we can course correct. Like, but having your team comfortable enough to be able to raise their hand where they need help sooner than later will definitely
Mhm.
help with that. Because it's like, oh, we can jump in and we can go ahead and make these changes and it still gets done on time versus after the fact. And then it's like, well, I didn't do it before. So I think those would be the things. Yeah.
That is beautiful advice. I would say both to future managers and honestly to current managers who might need a little refresh and a little dusting off of what makes them a good manager and how to keep
Yeah.
going
I
and
would
get better.
actually add another one that
Yeah.
I started doing, and I do it with friends and family and actually started implementing it once I became a leader. Asking if people are like, I would like to give you some feedback. Are you in the right space to have that conversation today? Um, has helped tremendously with building trust, with building the relationships, because it's like I care enough about you as a person to want to know where you are so that this development, this coaching conversation,
Mhm.
this feedback that I have to give is received in the best way possible so that we can work on solutions for this thing moving forward. Because if not, you catch them on a bad day. They don't want to hear
Yeah.
anything. They can be defensive. Walls go up. They completely shut down. You just never really know. And, that can make or break an experience that a person has. And not only do they associate it with you, but they associate it with the company. Like, oh, I had a terrible time at such and such, but it was because of one leader,
Mhm.
and so understanding that and incorporating that has been really, really helpful for me.
That's beautiful, Courtney, and a beautiful place to end it as well. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you.
and
Same
sharing all of your truth bombs. I appreciate it. I learn every time I talk with you, and I hope that the leading questions audience will as well.
I
So
do too. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for joining us. Have a good one.
You too.